Good morning. Good morning from Asia Society Hong Kong Center. Today is Monday, November 28th here in Hong Kong, uh, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'm delighted that Asia Society Hong Kong is hosting episode 43 of our coronavirus update, which started almost 3 years ago. And I was hoping when we started this series, it would be a short project. But as we come up on our third anniversary, it is unfortunately not a short project, but we're really the idea for this program, Stream Live, has always been to get the local experts as well as international experts who can enlighten us on this evolving epidemic. And today we are really delighted that we have Professor Paul F. Yip from Chair Professor Population Health, Department of Social Work and Social Administration at the University of Hong Kong joining us. And today we're going to focus on mental health challenges during COVID, and specifically on youth mental health challenges. Unfortunately, although the youth have not been affected as much physically as the elderly by COVID, but I think in this 3-year challenge with the unpredictable school closings and all of the restrictions, the youth have been impacted greatly. In fact, I would say more impacted more mentally than physically during this 3 years. And today we're really delighted that Professor Yip can share with us some of his studies and his research so that we can kind of learn from the lessons and see how we can improve in helping our youth navigate mental health challenges in the coming month. And we have seen an uptick, unfortunately, in suicide rates between young people, 15 to 29.
Yes.
And those are the things that we want to kind of address today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Professor Paul Yip, Chair Professor of Social Work and Social Administration and Director of Hong Kong Jockey Club Center for Suicide Research and Prevention at the University of Hong Kong, to get us started with some PowerPoints. And then we will, after the PowerPoint presentation, I will have a discussion with Professor Yip, and then we will open up to your Q&A. If you have any question, send it in through Slido, and we will try to address as many questions as we can. Professor Yip, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Alice, for your kind introduction. And it's a pleasure to be able to share some of our latest research finding and observation of the youth mental health challenges during the COVID-19. I think that is a very common themes what we have experiences during the COVID-19. I think the business has been disrupted, and then we have a high unemployment rate. And it actually, I think because of the situation, I think all the household, and especially, I think the low-income household, I think they're heavily negatively being affected, I think, by the COVID. And more than that, I think what we have seen, not only, I think the economic situation, I think have been disrupted, I think our social activity has also been disrupted. As you can see, I think the parks have been closed, the swimming pool has been closed, and also, and especially for young people, I think these are the activities ground, I think, which are also very important, I think, for their mental health. So in our study, I think we have looked at what are the major groups, I think, which will be more negatively affected by the COVID. I think we probably the young people, I think especially, I think as Alice has mentioned about, I think the school disruption, I think this on and off, I think it actually not only affecting academically, and I think their social relationship with their teachers and then with the student, they're also adversely affected. And also for those people who have the mental health condition, I think you must have heard about the story when the people, I think they're depressed already and under quarantine, and sometimes a lengthy quarantine, it also triggered off, I think, the situation. And also for those people who have a physical health condition, I think because of the disruption of the regular medical services, I think these people, I think they may delay, I think they go to the hospital to receive treatment or operation. I think these are the factors. And also we talk about the increase of the unemployment. I think we see unemployment rate has gone up 3%, I think to 7 point something percent. I think that it also lead to some financial hardship, I think, to the household. And especially when we talk about the low income families, I mean, as what we can see, I think is even the work from home arrangement. I think it will have least impact, I think, for the high income families or high income the workers, but for the low income, they are the ones who are mostly being disrupted. And also for the elderly as well. I mean, because of the quarantine, I think it disrupted social activities. It also has a negative impact on the mental health of the elderly. Now, when we're looking at the suicide rate, I think there's a lot of people that ask, hey, what happened, I think, during the COVID, whether the suicide rate actually has gone up. But when we look at the past, I think when you can see since 1997, I think the suicide rate, when you look at the red line from 12.1, is gone up to our historical high, 18.0. Now, if you can recall what happened in 2003, and that is what the SARS, I think it hit us the first time. But during that period of time, it only lasts for 2 months. I mean, from March until May, and actually the SARS has gone. I mean, it has been dealt with, and then we have recovered, and then we have bounced back. But actually, during that period of time, we also have a historical high unemployment rate, go to 8.6 as well. And also, that is the first time I think we deal with the situation. There's a lot of people really unprepared. So I think that led to the situation. But since then, I think the people, I think they start to pay more attention to the mental health. So I think the rate has come down quite encouragingly. So we can come down from 18.0 and up to 13.1. And then for the past decade or so, it has been fluctuated, I think, between 11 or 12. So I think that is the current situation. Now, what happened in 2021 and 2020, I think in the past 2 or 3 years, apparently, I think the suicide rate has not been gone up as much as in 2003. But what we have learned, what we have seen, the male also have a higher rate, I think, than the females. I think it's also, there's a general world situation that the men, this health-seeking behavior is not as good as the females. I mean, the men tend to they're not very good at seeking help. But what we see here, it is in the last 3 years, what we have found, we have a steadily increase of the suicide rate among the young people, and also we have an uptick about the suicide rate among the elderly, and actually the middle-aged people. I think they have not much increase. So when we say there's no increase, it's not actually there's no increase, but actually they are offsetting each other. So there are two groups that are going up, and then the middle age coming down. So actually it doesn't show any changes of the suicide rate. Now, because this talk is about the young people, I think when we look at the data,
recording in progress.
When we look at the data itself, I think from the year of 2021, so it has gone up quite steady. It is quite disturbing. I mean, although the base rate is low, but I think especially for young people suicide, for us, we always think that one is too many. I think we just have to work hard on this. And also we have seen the youth suicide rate is more likely to happen. Actually, I think the below 50, usually I think there are not many cases, but now I think the cases has been catching up too. Also, when we see the young people suicide, they usually they are very impulsive, and also they will take they are jumping from height. There's a very high lethality. So I think that is also one of the contributing factors, I think, for the increase of the suicide rate. So if you use a method which is less lethal, then the chance that to rescue them, it will be better. But now, because when they choose the jumping from height, and our lethality is about 70 to 80%. Now, when we look at the suicide rate, we also like to look at the spatial distribution. And that is the poverty cluster. I mean, in Hong Kong, although to a certain extent we have an affluent society, but at the same time, I think there are certain regions in Hong Kong, I think they are more deprived, especially I think when we're looking at the northwestern part, or and also in some inner city, I think we have the poverty. But this poverty rate in our data, we found out that when we divided this region into 5 quintile, and in the top, I think the 20%, the income level, I think the suicide rate, and then if you compare with the bottom 20%, is already 2.3 times. Now, I know what we are saying that is not, it doesn't mean that the high income group, they will not kill themselves, but what we are saying that for the low income group, I think they do have lack of the social support. I think the lack of a lot of services, and it seems that I think the suicide rate for that region, if you compare to the high income group, is about 2.3 times higher than the top 20%. So when you look at in Hong Kong, the suicide rate, this pink area, this is the area which have excessive suicide rate, which is very, it is mainly, I think, is from this poverty area as well. When we look at the suicide research, we always believe that the suicide, I think, is not a single cause, it's always there's a multiple cause. So we have the chance, I think, to look at the coroner's court suicide file. I mean, it suggests to us that I think at different age group, at different life stages, I think they have different kinds of problems. So we look at the family issue, mental health issue, physical health issue, abuse, financial problem, work, and school issue. Now, it seems that I think for those below 15, and then it is I think the school issue and then the family issue, I think they are more prevalent. As they grow older, I think their problem become more diverse. I think when you go to 25 to 39, and it seems that the family issue, the work issue, and then the financial issue become more important. And then when you go to 60, I mean, the physical health issue has become another, more important. But what I like to highlight is that for the young people, I think it is a relationship between the school and also the family issue. I think that's what we have identified. I think when we're looking at the causes of suicide among the people in Hong Kong. Then lately we have developed some sort of network analysis, because what we believe that not only one single factors, I think it will contribute to the suicide causes, and usually it comes in groups. I think what we call the comorbidity. So what we have found out that for those below 15, it seems that the school issue is very closely related with the family issue. Now, what it means that some of the family issue, it is arising from the school issue. I mean, I can give you one example. I think in one of our cases, when we look at, I think some of the parents, I think they are not very happy with the performances of their children in school, and then and also and then the student themselves, I think they also impose very high standard for themselves, and then so it create a lot of stress, I think, between the children and the family and the parents as well, and sometimes because of this lack of communication, and then sometimes it will create excessive stress, I think, among young people. I mean, lately we also deal with a couple of students, I think, when they kill themselves in school, and that deal with their relationship problems in school, and then but the parents and then the school doesn't have a lot of good communication as well, and sometimes I think these are the problems. So what we are saying that this is the network, it all come together. So when we try to deal with the young people problem, I think we just have to be more concerned. I think so. When we look at 15 to 24, I think the school problem is still a common problem. And then 25 to 39, then it becomes the financial problem. But then you can see how these factors, I think, they related to one another. 40 to 59, and there's the financial problem, the family problem, the mental health issue. And then for those people who are 60 or above, then I think the physical health issue, I think it has come in. Some of the elderly, they do not want to be a burden to the family. And then sometimes if the medical support is not sufficient, and sometimes they might have this thought, I think, to kill themselves. So one thing what we like to highlight in here, it seems that it doesn't matter what age group you are in, the family, I think, seems to be a very important factor. So what we like to see is how can we empower the family? we know that some of the family, I mean, they are not function very well. I mean, if they're from a single parents family or whatever. But when we do suicide prevention, we really have to take the family as a partner. I mean, to promote the mental wellness. I mean, not only for the young people, it's for the all age group. Yes, just like to highlight a bit more the last 3 academic years, and then you can see some of the suicide. It occurred at very young age. That is very disturbing. And then sometimes we say that, well, they're so young. I mean, how much they know about life and how much they know about death. But sometimes they just choose, I think, to do it in this way. So it is very sad. So we have the primary school, we have the Form 1 and Form 2, and then we have the situation. But one thing, just like to give a more global perspective, I think this suicide rate among the young people is not only a local problem, it's not only particularly happened in Hong Kong, it actually, I think it happened in all other parts of the world too. So whether the suicide rate for the whole population is going up, like the USA, the suicide rate among the young people is always going up. So we are facing a global challenge. So whatever our young people facing in Hong Kong is not only a Hong Kong exclusive problem. I think it is. We are talking about lack of social support. We are talking about the social media. We are talking about how the young people, I think that they just seems to have more problems, I think, than before. So I think so we see the Singapore situation. We see in Korea situation. And then when we do the suicide prevention, we always say that sometimes we pay a lot of attention, I think, on this group, I think who have mental illness. But when we talk about suicide prevention, we should have what we call a multi-layer approach. Just whatever we see the suicide number here, it is just the tip of the iceberg. But I think what we really have to do is to deal with the iceberg itself. So I think that's what we call, we have the tertiary prevention, we have secondary prevention, we have the primary prevention. The primary prevention we are talking about to deal with the whole population. I think according to the Ross theory, it says that if you reduce a small risk to a large population, it will be more effective than deal with a high risk just with a small population. But at this moment, I think we pay a lot of attention, I mean, for those people who have the mental illness and who work on them. But if you really want to talk about suicide prevention, a proper health approach is to use a multi-layer approach, not just only concentrate on this, but you also concentrate in the 3 layers. I was always being asked, or if you give you $10, where are you going to spend your money? I think the $10 to spend on the tertiary prevention, it doesn't help much. But if I use a $10, I mean, to spend on the primary prevention, it actually, you can do much more. Now, but I'm not saying this tertiary prevention is not important. It is important. But if we just concentrate on this, just concentrate on the tip of the iceberg, I think the iceberg itself, it would not get any smaller. So when we do suicide prevention, we look at the surveillances, we talk about identification of risk and protective factors. We like to look at development preventive program, how to make changes. And then we also to look at the implementation and evaluation. It's very important. We are now in Hong Kong, we have a lot of people have a good heart, and then they just like to do something. But at the end of the day, I mean, we like to say whether it does what it's supposed to be, and whether it does it in a cost-effective manner. So we like to promote this from the illness model to the wellness model. And then we talk about, if you not only talk about suicide prevention, but we talk about positive development and flourish. I think that is very important. So I think, so we have the prevention side, the treatment side. It is very, very, very important. It's very expensive, but at the end of the day, if we can enhance the protective factors, and then that would be good. Now, I'd like to just share with you briefly, I think what we believe. We say that, well, we can look at the individual factor, we look at the community factors, and we look at the population level as well. Because some people, I mean, I just like to use this graph to illustrate, I think, the story. I think when the sunshine comes out, when the sun comes out, I mean, everybody is happy. Now, for those young people to live in the neighborhood A and neighborhood B. But if it rains, I think somebody get an umbrella and then they would not get wet, but some they do not. But because I think some of the people, they are already very deprived, very disadvantaged, I think they just cannot afford to have an umbrella to keep them dry. So what we are saying is if the neighborhood aid can have a big umbrella, I mean, that will provide the sort of community support, I think, to make the changes. So I think, why we say we like to empower the school, I think, as a way to provide the umbrella in the neighborhood area. I think that is the idea, because if that particular student is from a deprived family, from a single parent, they will not be able to help themselves. Of course, we still like to promote this resilience, but at the end of the day, we still like to have this sort of community support to provide safety net, I mean, for these young people. So in our center, we have been very grateful for the support of the Hong Kong Jockey Club. I think we developed this Little Prince Yes Depressed. That is a social media thing. I mean, to inform the people about the importance of the mental health, and also through the Quality Education Fund. I think we do this so-called promoting wellness in school. I think what we believe, I think promoting wellness in school is very important. I mean, our Chinese title called means you can promote excellency, but you still can do it with joy. I think this excellency and happiness, the well-being, they do not have to compete with one another. They can grow at the same time. So when we do the biopsychosocial approach, it turns out that, I mean, the social aspect and then the psychological aspect, they are all closely related. So we have developed some curriculum for the kindergarten, for the primary school, and for the secondary school too. Because what we believe, I think when we do the education, you start from young. When you start from young, lay a good foundation, and then I think they will learn. We can share with you one of the program when we do in the Lofton district in the early 2011, when there is 6 young people that kill themselves within 4 months. I mean, what we turns out that, I mean, there's a lot of people, they think that, well, you said they are net of services. No, it actually, these 6 young people, I mean, they are youth centered, but these 6 young people, they never appear, I think, to go to the youth center to receive the services. I think these 6 people, they are young people, they are unemployed, I think, and then the traditional services have not reached them. So when we go to there and then to help to work with the SWD and then with the sector there, and then to try to promote a caring society, to provide some program, and then to connect the young people, I mean, with the jobs and then with the school. Now, after 4 years of hard working, then you can see, I think that district is actually from a high rate, it has come down. So when a lot of people say that, well, then these young people, if they kill themselves, there's not much you can do. Now, that is not true. I think if we have some focused, effective program, and then we can make a difference. Now, the other thing, what we have been doing, I think when Alice asked us what we have done, I think we have done some work. It's about the Open Up. The Open Up program, it is a 24-hour emotional support for young people, because now the young people, they do not want to call, they do not want to do the traditional services. They like to do the texting. So we provide a 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 a year to support, I mean, for these people. So it turns out, I think we have managed to engage these people who sometimes who do not go to the traditional services, or they have used the traditional services and then they do not find they are enough. So, and then we have made the changes. And it actually, this is a crisis line. We have some other good practices in other countries as well. So at the end of the day, what I like to share is the public health approach is that we like to promote a so-called a protective environment. So if this is a bell shape, if this is a small group of people who have problems, sometimes we use a lot of effort, I mean, to identify this group of people. However, if we manage to shift the overall well-being of the population, at the end of the day, it actually there are less people who have problems. So the whole public health approach, the idea is we are not looking at the individual risk, but we are also at the risk at the population level, then we can make the changes. just to finish off my presentation, and I always say that, well, we always like to use a glass of water to put off the fire. And sometimes it doesn't work, of course, we know that. But even if we have 6 glasses of water, it still doesn't put off the fire. So we just have to think out of the box. So that's why we do research. That's our center, what we are doing. We do the training, train the trainer, get the gay people, not only the professional, I mean, the whole community, I think, can contribute. We need the social support is very, very important. I mean, the funder, and then the government support, and then the education. The education, I think, is one of the things we do, the capacity building, and then we do believe that I think the knowledge, again, can change our fate. Once again, I mean, the tip of the iceberg, I always say that I think if we want to make the iceberg small, it's not just looking at the iceberg. I think we use the social warming, I think, or the global warming, the social warming, to make the few people, you are not leaving behind, you are being connected. I think that is the whole idea when we do the suicide prevention, and especially for young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Yip. I think we can take the PowerPoint. We'll start our discussion, but I want to thank you so much for that wonderful kind of a reference, kind of a setup in terms of what you're doing and what the Hong Kong situation. And what I found interesting is that you know the trend you talked about is not just a local Hong Kong situation, but it's also global among the young people. And I often wonder, you know, the young people now have so much more opportunity, but I guess they also have so much more pressure. And one of the area that you kind of alluded to was social media. And I'm curious, kind of like the myths of technology. Is it helping or is it not helping? Or is it contributing to some of the unhealthy mental health of young people? I know we can use it to also as a helpful tool, but talk about the technology, and because that's another trend that we're seeing, that when we were growing up before, it's talking to counselors, talking to people, but nowadays young people have they're increasingly talking to their friends on their phones, and but is that helping or is not helping? So that's an area.
I think because I think our young people, I think they grow up in the digital area. I think they like, I think, to spend more time in the social media, the technology. Sometimes it's difficult to change that. I think we just have to live with it. So actually, why we have this the open up operation, it is really in responding to these young people, I think, who do not, I think, go to sit help using the traditional means, go to the youth center, or even pick up the phone. They just don't want to do it. So I think what we can do now, we cannot force them, I think, to use this. But what we really can say that, well, what we like to do is to provide as many alternative as possible. I mean, to create this sort of safety net, I think, for these young people. I think what we believe, I think the social media or the technology is, as always, is a double-edged sword. I think it can go either way. I think I always say that it is a good servant, but it's a bad master. I think when, one of our study, we have shown that the people, they spend more time, I think, in the social media or in the, it actually is not very good to their mental health. But for some people, I think because have the social media, they feel they're being connected, and it does have some positive impact. So I think what we really need to do is how to monitor, I think, the use of the situation, the content of the information that they access to, and then just to try to make them to be a good servant, I think, to promote the mental well-being, I think, for our community.
Oh, one of the things, I think what I thought interesting, you were talking about the holistic approach. I mean, it's not just, used to be, I think the idea is just, get the kids taken care of, make sure that they, the suicide prevention hotline. But your presentation also brought up some interesting point about multi-layer, the role of the community, the role of parents, the role of school, and the role of government, and also employers. I think that kind of approach, do you think are we, the society, ready? I mean, used to be you treat the symptoms, but not the whole disease. And do you think the, kind of what you're doing now at the your center is really a wonderful approach to that? But do you think, are we there yet in terms of kind of this multi-layer approach?
I think we have made some significant improvement already. I mean, since 2003 and after the SARS, I mean, the people tend to put more emphasis on their mental well-being, and also the company. I think they are talking about the so-called the family-friendly working policy. So I think there's a lot of time that I think it is important. I think in the workplace, we also have to promote this mental well-being. Now the employer, they start to realize that I think if the employer doesn't have a good mental state, it also affects, I think, their performances as well. But you're right. I mean, what we have seen, I think, is everyone can make the due contribution. And I think it is very, very important that how we can create this sort of safety net in the society. I think just, for example, in school, I think we always talk about, when you have the school problem, you have more school counselor, more social worker. But actually, it is only part of the solution. But if you do not go into your curriculum, if you do not go into giving more space for the teachers to have more time to build up a good relationship with the student, if you do not enlarge the so-called the opportunity for young people and not live in such an exam-oriented curriculum or just a very narrow the opportunities, I think, for these young people, I think that also doesn't help. So I think if we really want to improve the mental well-being of our young people, first of all, yes, for those who have problems, you give them the services. And secondly, the structurally, how can make it, I think, conducive, I think, how to make their learning more enjoyable, and how to make the youth mobility, and how to give them hope. I think some of the young people, as I showed you before, I mean, we are very saddened to. I mean, young people, I mean, at the age of 11 or 12, I mean, primary school, how can they just switch it off? Because they do not see any hope. So I think it's our job as adults. How can we induce the hope, how to provide the support and the care, and as a holistic man. So it's not only the teacher's problem, it's not only the parents' problem, it's we all start to realize the need, and then we can find our own role and how to improve our own communication and then to do the things better.
Do you think, this last 3 years, with all the, you had mentioned earlier, SARS was a very short period of time, a few months, and then this last 3 years with COVID. And I think, there have been the school closings, and I lost a lot of friends here back to, these are generally the expats who have just kind of were fed up with it, and they're going to take their kids back to the US, Europe, or whatever. But local families can't do that, and some of them have chose to immigrate. So how do you think have the government learned from this the policy, the school closure issue? Because that's another question that we're getting a lot from our members and friends, because we're not out of the woods yet with COVID, and with an increased number of daily, 8,000. I mean, we're so obsessed with the numbers still that I think some parents are still concerned about the school closure. Do you think the education department has finally learned from this that school is important? My understanding is the teachers, the counselor, they are sometimes the first line of defense in terms of seeing the students having issue. But when you have no school, and kids are, especially the ones who are underprivileged and in no place to go, do you think we learn our lessons there?
I think you are that right. I mean, we have been communicating with the Education Bureau, and then we have raised the concerns about the disruption of the school life, I think, for the young people. And then it actually is very important. And actually, the younger they are the one I think, who need, I think, the school life. I mean, especially for the so-called the marginalized or from the low-income families, because as you can see, if they can go to school and then they stuck in a home which is very small, they do not have Wi-Fi, and or they have to fighting with the Wi-Fi. It actually has a lot of disruption. I think not only, as I said, not only in the academic progress, but in the social progress as well. Now, and some of the school, it actually now it reduced from a full day to the half day. So they already, I think we already have a very packed curriculum, but now they make it even packed. So they get rid of those classes like the arts, the physical education, the swimming, and all that. These are the things that the kids they enjoy. But now they're all being crammed into. You have to do your dictation. You have to do this. However, having said that, I think some of the school, I do realize that they do take the message now. So they and actually the education bureau, they actually also to remind the school you have to slow down. There's no point to catch up all the syllabus. I think within such a short time, I think we take our time, don't give too much pressure, I think, to our young people. I remember, I think in the middle of August, we are worried about when September, and then there will be, when the school will open again, and then there will be another round of the suicide cases among the school children. So in the middle of August, I think the EDB and ourselves have done a lot of work, I think, just to raise awareness to the school, just to go slow, and then give the student some sort of breathing space, not too much tests, and when they come into the new school, give them a bit more time for orientation, and then, just to raise awareness of the mental health, train the fellow students, keep an eye on each other. It seems that I think the suicide cluster in September and October, it doesn't occur. So I think keep our finger crossed. I think, yes, I think the message is getting there, but I think we do need more work. I think more systematic work, and not an ad hoc measure. How to make our school life to be a pleasant one, and make school as a place, as a shelter, as a haven. I think for the needy students.
That's a wonderful point. I think one thing I learned, I think in your studies, you also talk about the kind of disparities. I have a lot of friends who, nostalgically, they feel the 3 years they've been able to connect with their family more because they're working from home. They have a bigger apartment. They can, help their kids with homework and so on. But I think what your point is, I think the local community, when you're living in a smaller flat, everybody's fighting for bandwidth on internet, and some of the parents are blue collar workers. They have to go to work, whether it's restaurants, and even then, with all the uncertainties, not earning enough money. I think one of the financial issues that you also talked about. But it's interesting in your, one of the things, again, my takeaway is the family is across all sections, whether you're young and old. They're kind of the core, whether it's elderly, working about physical health, but family along with schools. But I think family seems to be the bottom line. How do you think the government or the community, how can we strengthen that bond, making sure that family is kind of first line of defense? Sometimes family is also an issue, but how do we work on that?
Yes, I think you have highlighted a very important issue, because especially when we deal with the young people, usually some of the parents, I think they have given up a long time ago. I mean, they are complaining about, oh, my young kids, they don't talk to me anymore, right? I think they just got to spend all the time on the iPhone. But sometimes we should not give up. Because when we're looking at the death notes of these young people, I think they have written it down before they die. They say they apologize, to the parents, to their love. And when we read this, it's very heartbroken. Sometimes it's the parents, we miss the opportunity. We spend so much time on our work. We spend so much time earning money. We thought we have done our fair share. It actually, I think the children, whether you are rich or not rich. They just need your presence. They just need your time. So I think, as I say, the working from home, you are right. I think in our study, it showed that 20% of the youngsters, they think the relationship with the family, they have been improving, right? It is because they work from home, spend more time with the family, the parents have more time to look after them. But you're right. The others 20% for the low income group, they've been left behind at home, no one looking after them, and then they're under a lot of pressure, and then they also these parents, they cannot provide the need help to ensure the academic their progression at the right level. So I think it creates a lot of tension, and then they complain about the young people that spend more time on the computer games because they're locked at home and this sort of thing. So I really think that raising the awareness of the importance of the family and then our role as a parents are very important. Don't give up, and then don't try to find a substitute or there's a circle. There's no circle. There's no proxy. They want you to be present. So I think for those people, I think who still have not spent enough time with the children, they need you. So I think not only you bring the bread and butter on the table to feed them, to the dinner table, they also need your presence. The emotional support is very important.
How to get them there? I mean, sometimes this older generation, there's kind of a stigmatization, right, of a mental health, and I think sometimes the parents also need training as well. Training to ask the right questions and exactly training on not giving up on their own kids. So how do you think, the community can help in that? Opening up a dialogue. I mean, it is hard being a parent these days, with all of the uncertainties and so on. But I can get the sense that they also need training or need help as well in terms of how to communicate with their kids. Are there resources for that as well now that are the government or the community, Jockey Club and other, are there resources for the parents as well?
I think in the school, I think we have the Parents Teacher Association, and from time to time, we offer some parents talk. I think you're right. As a parents, especially this day, they are not easy. It is quite challenging. So I think certainly there's more could be done, but I think there are community resources and there, which I think, but the parents themselves, I think they have to set the priority right first, right? Works is important. Watching World Soccer, they are important too, but at the same time, do spare sometimes with your children. Sometimes I always say that you do not have to take them to Australia, to other places. I mean, you just take them to Chengzhou or to a park. I think they will love your presence already. But yes, I think the school now, they also start to realize that I think with the support of the parents, of the student, the work will be even more effective. So I think now we are promoting, I think there's a parents education in the school, because sometimes I think in Hong Kong we have a long working hours. So I totally sympathetic to some of the parents. I have to work, and I would like to have time, and sometimes it's just hard to reach them. But I think in school, at a very good platform, I think to create, I think this opportunity, which the student, the teachers, and the parents, I think they can come together. I think to try to work out a way which can be conducive, I think, in building up their bondage and then their relationship.
Your question, there's a question from Slido, which I thought is interesting, and I want to kind of paraphrase it. And the question was, why are suicide rates for men so much higher than for women? And I think you alluded it earlier in that men harder to talk to than women. We always have girlfriends that we can, help. I mean, I have to say, without my girlfriends this last couple of years, I think I would have gone crazy. So it's different for men. But I think how to teach the men to open up, and I think I want to tie it with what you just said about kids. I see myself, I mean, I really, as a 5-year-old, spending time with my father, who was very busy on, and this is, at a time when life was hard, but it was the times that I remember as a 5-year-old. It's the quality time I spent with my father going to museums. So and I think here in Hong Kong, material things, and it's not just Hong Kong. I think everywhere we want to give our kids everything, monetarily and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's the kids, like you said, they're asking for time, or just communication. So how do you teach men how to be better fathers, or just better communication?
Well, as a father of 3 children, I think my children always remind me I fail, so I cannot. I don't have the right to share. But actually, I do get along with my 3 children well. But I think it does need to spend time. I think there's no shortcut. I mean, there's no substitute. But one thing I always say that we say it's okay not to be okay. The main, sometimes, I mean, we have the phase and we don't want to see how. But we always say that, hey, if you do not feel well, it's okay. There's a lot of people, they're not feeling well too, right? And also, we always stress on seeking help is a sign of strength rather than weakness. Because why we say strength? Because you realize your problem and then you have the courage, I think, to face up the problem. Now, there's a lot of problem. I think they try to not to come home so early or try to do something because they try to stay away from the problem. Now, then that is not a sign of strength. But the strength is that when I have a problem, I have to deal with it and I have to try to solve it satisfactorily. But actually, as I say, don't underestimate yourself as a father. I mean, there's a lot of studies show that I mean a good father and children relationship, sometimes the benefit even higher than the mother and the children relationship. We always say, the mother say 100 sentences, but actually they're just repeating itself. But the father only have to take 2 sentences. It will be better. But anyway, but I think a good communication between the father and mother also very important. Sometimes the children, they're being trapped in between. And especially, I think in Hong Kong, I think our divorce number has gone up. Some of the children, they've been caught in the middle. So I always like to appeal, I think, to the parents that please, I think, do pay more attention to the children, to be more sensitive to the need. I think it is they are sometimes they are the victims of some of our problems. So we have to sort the things out ourselves. I think.
Good advice. Very good advice. I hope all the parents out there are listening. And also, I think the youth out there, if there's any problem, I think nothing is unsolvable. And reach out to anyone, counselors, friends, other people. I feel having somebody who sought a professional help at a younger age, I can't speak highly enough for I think seeking help. It's almost like I think another thing that you touch upon too just reminded me. As we get older, we are worrying about our physical health, but I think if you do maintenance, exercise, eat healthy, sleep right, you are healthier when you get older. And I think mental health. I think we're finally coming to this issue that the maintenance, the well-being in the beginning is better than in the end, seeking it's great to have the suicide prevention hotlines, but I think the maintenance and awareness, and I hope with this COVID, because we've been through it so long, this last 3 years, I think that this is something that's going to stay with us, that mental health is just as important as physical health. So one of the questions from our audience is also talking about social distancing. Will social distancing restrictions and some of the school closures have a long-term impact on mental health?
Yes, I think I always say, I think during the quarantine, I think when we have 21 days, reduced to 14 days, and then we have so much a story about this sort of how much it has adversely affect, I think, the mental health of the population. So that's why in our center, we have developed a well-location package. It is especially tailor-made for those people who have gone through the quarantine. I myself have gone through the quarantine as well. I do feel that I think that's sort of isolation, that sort of being left behind, that sort of loneliness. I think it does had a long-term impact, I think, to the whole community, and especially for those people who are not have very good social support and who really deprived, I think, of the resources. I mean, as I said before, like the school children from the low-income group, I think their Wi-Fi is not very good. I think the social distancing, I think they really disrupt, I think, their whole social network development. Sometimes after 3 years, they have not met their classmate at all. And also they always put up with a mask. When they take off the mask, they couldn't recognize anybody. So I think what you can imagine, if I grow up in that situation for such a long time, how can I build up my peer support? And how can we really like to find someone, I think, to have something to share? I think I just couldn't find anybody. I mean, in the pre-COVID time, I think we through our extracurricular activities, the school activity, we built up some sort of peers. I think when we look at the mental health of our young people, we always ask them, if you do have the problem, whom would you sit down? I mean, the first one is the peers. I think it's a peer, but now where are the peers? They do not have to go to school. Even they go to school, and then they lack of the opportunity to build up this bondage. I think so. I think the social distancing. I always say that social distancing is mean the physical distance, but it's not the emotional distancing. But now, I think I do appreciate the government. I mean, need to stop or need to contain, I think, the epidemic. But at the same time, I think please pay more attention to the mental health, and especially for those people who cannot help themselves. And sometimes they are just using a one rule to do it. Yes, it is efficient, but definitely it's not cost effective. And definitely there's some much collateral damage that we just do not, I think, confront with it. I mean, so that is an oversight, I think, which we need to rectify. I think to minimize. I think there's a potential damage. I think in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term as well.
I think we're going to learn a lot from this globally, and we're hoping to do more programs, especially coming up on the third anniversary. Just globally, what we've learned, and having been in the States this summer, I know many of the schools have also learned from what has happened in the U.S. in terms of mask wearing, social distancing measures, and so on. Everyone has learned from this, and the impact of mental development as well as educational pluses and minuses that we've learned from this 3 years. So we hope to bring more programs like this. And I think one of the saddest thing I saw this during our fifth wave is when I saw many of the young kids in my local community playground, and when they wrap up the playgrounds and the kids looking at it forlornly, they want to play, but the playgrounds are literally locked or wrapped on, and it's just one of the saddest things I've ever seen. And parents also trying to do whatever they can. And so I'm hoping now that we're opening up, like you said, not everybody's going to take their kids traveling abroad, but feel free to bring your kids to Asia Society. We have a wonderful center that we'd love to share. So I think from that, I think one of the question, the last question really, I think we already also touched upon it, is really explaining what do you make the uptick of suicide in Hong Kong among those under 15 over the last 2 years? What can we do to prevent it? And you talked about hope or lack of hope. And I know before COVID, there was the social unrest. So how do you now think, how can we give hope so that, that age group, and what really is disturbing when you talked about the younger one, the under 12s, and, let's talk about hope. What are some of the areas that we as a community, parents, family, and teachers can give hope to the young?
Well, it's a difficult and challenging question. And as we see from our data, it suggests that I think the school and the family are the two important stakeholders for these young people. So what I really hope is because there's so much disruption in the human relationship in the past two, 2 or 3 years, some of the good friends, they may have migrated, they have moved, some of their teachers that they like, they might have left the school as well. So I think one thing I really hope the school, I think, can pay more attention, I think, to the mental health being of their school children, and try to provide more opportunities, I think, for them, I think, to build a good relationship. I think that is very important. And we do hope, I think, the Education Bureau or other funders to provide more resources to the school, such that they really can create a very supporting environment. Right? I think that is very important. I mean, for the family, I always say that yes, it is very challenging. I do hope, I mean, the parents, I think after the COVID, I think we all understand. I think the family is very important. I think not only we should pay more concentration on our work, but at the same time, I do hope, I think the parents, I think they do spend more time with their young children, especially if they do not have to go to school. So it do give us an opportunity, I think, to build up some relationship. And hopefully, I think for the employer, try to be more sympathetic or more empathy, I mean, to those parents with children. If they can work from home, I think we do hope that I think we can work out an arrangement, I think, which is protective, I think, for our young children as well. I think at the end, I think it's very important. I think for Hong Kong, we do need to go back to for this the role of recovery, how to promote a more harmonious, I think, atmosphere. I think between the young and the community and then the government itself. I think we want to make Hong Kong to be a place that it is livable, it's the people that enjoy to stay back, I mean, to make our due contribution, I think, to make Hong Kong to remain, I think, a wonderful city. It's not only an Asian city, it's a global city. We do like to make Hong Kong to be a place that we all can be proud of.
Thank you. On that note, I want to thank Professor Yip for this really thoughtful program, and I learned a lot. And the things that we, each one of us, can do. I'm heartened by what you just said, and also this last couple of months, Asian Society has played host to St. Paul College. Then, when they celebrated its 170th anniversary, they talked about the focus was definitely on the role of the school and alumni can do to support the students. We also, this last weekend, I was part of a panel on the UNESCO Future of Education Forum, again, focusing on educational reforms and how we can help the government look at less pressure on the students, more support for the family, and more support for the educators. This last Saturday, we also hosted with the Central and West District Association for Culture and the Arts, opportunity for Hong Kong youth in the arts. That's a growing sector. So we're doing everything we can to really give Hong Kong hope and the youth hope. I think that I do believe the best is yet to come, but we still have to come out of this unfortunate COVID, and it'll be behind us real soon. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to bring programs like this. And I want to end with I have a motto that I share with our colleagues here. I always said health and family first. And I've said that from the beginning, and I'll continue saying it. And now health also include mental health. It's not just physical health. Physical and mental health are just as important, and family is just as important. And during this, difficult time, we need all the help we can get. And again, Professor Yip, thank you for all the work you do. Please check out Professor Yip's websites and in his editorial, and I look forward to reading all you have written, contribute, and also your research. It's really a wonderful contribution to the community for us to focus on an issue that sometimes is not pleasant, but it is needed and it is important for us to focus on. So thank you. And I look forward to welcome you all back in future programs on the coronavirus update. And we will be doing a program on the 3rd anniversary, really, again, looking back on what we've learned from this global pandemic. So thank you and have a good day. Thank you, Professor Yip.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.